Brahmachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bala Bhagiri Varanari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Your Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Together, please. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Preshwabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamashloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. It is nice to have Labor Day right at this time, isn't it? Start the semester, then bang, Janmashtami, Vyas Puja, all this chaos. Now today, kind of catch our breath a little bit. What? Mahaklina, yeah. That is. So I wanted to take the opportunity to just do a little bit of review since we had such a hectic start to the semester. Okay, a little review about some very basic things we all need to know about Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so first of all, what does Srimad Bhagavatam mean? Bruce?
Something about a person.
Okay, that's a good start. Wait to Prabhu. Good to say it loudly, I'll repeat. Okay, yes, the beautiful story of the personality of Godhead and his associates. Srimad means beautiful. Bhagavatam means the account of Bhagavan. Beautiful stories, beautiful stories. We stop. So Bhagavan is the name that's used as a derivative for Srimad Bhagavatam and for Bhagavad Gita. So what's the meaning of Bhagavan? One who is full in 6 opulences, right? The 6 attributes, opulences that any one of us may have, or we all have to some extent. But the person who is full in all 6 is Bhagavan. One and only. No one can be equal to him. No one can be greater than him because he's full in all opulences. What are the 6 opulences? What? Wealth, fame, beauty, knowledge, strength, and enunciation. In spite of having all these opulences, Krishna, gopis, you wait here. I'm going to go away. Completely renounced. Yeah. So the first 3 verses of Bhagavatam, which we've kind of been over these last few days, these are just it's a word like introduction. They're sort of an invocation for the entire text. They don't have anything to do with the story, which begins unfolding in the next verse. But these first 3 verses are so beautiful and important for that reason. So what does the first verse, in a word, in one word, what does the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam tell us about? Who said that? Oh, smart. Okay, who is everything? Krishna, yeah. The first verse of Bhagavatam tells us about Krishna. Janmad yasya yata means everything comes from the absolute truth. The absolute truth is the source of everything. And then in more detail, this world which appears to be real but which is illusory, he who gave knowledge into the heart of Brahma at the beginning of creation, he who is responsible for the whole creation and yet always hanging out in his own abode. This is Krishna. First verse about Krishna. Second verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. What is it about? What? In one word. In one hyphenated word. No. Dharma projita kaita vocha paramo nirmatsaramitatam. It is about Srimad Bhagavatam. It tells us about Srimad Bhagavatam. It kicks out religious, materially motivated religion, and it is meant to be understood by thoroughly purified men and women. And what else? Vedium vastu mamatu vastu shivadam tapam trimuranam. Well, let's read the translation in full, shall we? Just to be sure. Yes. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, tapo triumulanam. Yes, the Srimad Bhagavatam is that book which can be understood by honest people, which uproots the miseries of life and is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within the heart. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so today's verse, so we've got Krishna, we've got Bhagavatam, and today's verse is how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so these are the 3 verses that invoke the value of Bhagavatam for the reader. Okay. They're beautiful verses to memorize, although it is not necessary to memorize them. When you sit down, you're having a bad day, you sit down, I'm going to memorize the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. That's where you start. Nigama kabatoror galitam palam Shuka mukad amritadrava samyutam Pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Babuka Nigama Kalpatoro Galitam Palam Shuka Mukad Amrita Drava Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur Aho Rasika Bhuvi Babuka. Dalitam Palam Some Bhuvi Bhavaka Nigama Kapataro Galitam Palam Agamukad Amrita Drava Samhitam Vivata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavaka Nigama Kapataro Galitam Palam Shukam Mukad Amrita Drava Samyutam Vivata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Muhur Aho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavaka. Okay. Synonyms together, please. Nigama of the Vedic literatures, Kalpataro, the desire tree, Galitam, fully matured, Palam, fruit, Shuka, Sukadeva Goswami, the original speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Mukat, from the lips of, Amrita, nectar, Drava, semi-solid and soft, and therefore easily swallowable, Samyutam, perfect in all respects, Pibata, do relish it, Bhagavatam, the book dealing in the science of the eternal relation with the Lord, Rasam, juice, that which is relishable, Alayam, until liberation, or even in a liberated condition. Mahu, always. Aho, oh, Rasika, those who are full in knowledge of mellows. Bhuvi, on the earth. Babu Kaha, expert and thoughtful. Together, please. Oh, expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Okay, let's start the purport. We can just go side to side here, pass the mic around, like a paragraph each.
Two previous slokas, it has been definitely proved that the Srimad Bhagavatam is a sublime literature which surpasses all other Vedic literatures due to its transcendental to all the mundane activities and mundane knowledge. In this shloka, it is stated that Srimad Bhagavatam is not only a superior literature, but it is the ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. In other words, it is the cream of all Vedic knowledge. Considering all this, patient and submissive hearing is definitely essential. With great respect and attention, one should receive the message and lessons imparted by the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes. One of the American transcendentalists wrote of Srimad Bhagavatam that it is a book to be read on one's knees. Great awe and reverence. Okay.
The Vedas are compared to the desire tree because they contain all things not knowable by man. They deal with mundane necessities as well as spiritual realization. The Vedas contain regulative principles of knowledge covering social, political, religious, economic, military, medicinal, chemical, physical, and metaphysical subject matter, and all that may be necessary to keep the body and soul together. Above and beyond all this are specific directions for spiritual realizations. Vacuum into knowledge involves a gradual raising of the living entity to the spiritual platform. And the highest spiritual realization is knowledge that the personality of Godhead is the reserver of all spiritual taste of Rashtra.
Very good, thank you. Yes, this is, so the Vedas deal with the, but what is the military science from the Vedas? Anyone know the name of that Shastra? What is it called? Dana Veda. It's how to conduct war. How about health and medicine? Ayurveda, right? Ayur means life, so how to live the body together. All of these topics are explained in the Vedas. And so when we talk about the Vedas, this is a vast reservoir of knowledge, but it's all to deal with keeping body and soul together. We speak of the Vedas respectfully, yet in the Bhagavad Gita we find where Krishna is kind of denigrating the Vedas. Does anyone remember some places where Krishna speaks kind of putting the Vedas in a lower position?
At the very end, where he says, give up all religious processes. So that's everything in the Vedas.
And just surrender to me, yes. Stephen?
Krishna also says something along the lines of men of small intelligence are attached to the fruit of flowery words of the Vedas. Yeah.
Yes. That's right. Yeah, very, very good. Yeah.
Also, one of the gopis, something like they're teasing is more relishable than any in the Vedas.
All the Vedic hymns, yeah, that's mentioned also. Good. Yeah, I was thinking specifically about the Gita because it's just such a foundational book, and in the book, Krishna's like putting down the Vedas pretty often. Men of small knowledge are attached to them. It says, when your intelligence has passed out of the dense forest of delusion, referring to the Vedic rituals. It's so although all this knowledge is there, it also only touches on the metaphysical, on the spiritual side. It doesn't focus on it. So when the compiler of the Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva, finished writing them, and even a philosophical summary of them in Vedanta Sutra, he was still dissatisfied. So his guru Narada Muni came and said, okay, you're unhappy because you haven't directly glorified Krishna. You know these like cliff notes? I'm sure none of you ever used cliff notes this was before AI and you didn't have to bother with them anymore, but there used to be this condensed version of books. You could appear to be like you actually read the assignment. So Bhagavatam is like that, and yet even more so because the essential part that you want out of it is given directly. Just like when gold is mined, there's a tremendous amount of what they call sluice. Sluice is mud and rocks and water that have little value, but then amongst the sluice are little flecks, sometimes nuggets of gold. So the miners are just plucking those out. And so similarly, Bhagavatam is like the gold of the Vedas. And all of the other things are supplementary, they're corollary. Now, I used to sell books to professors, sell Prabhupada's books to professors, and some of these professors would be very snooty. They'd say, oh, this is corollary literature, Srimad Bhagavatam. We only study the Vedas. And what they're failing to see, this is exactly what Krishna is talking about in chapter 2 of the Gita. They're just preoccupied with all of this knowledge about how to make it in this world and how to make this world as convenient, comfortable, and successful as possible. But that they're missing the point is to get out of the world, not have to come back, not have to do it all over again, however expertly. So, all right, any comments on this before we move on? Advaita Prabhu?
When Krishna, in the Gita, when Krishna says that whatever purpose is served in a small reservoir of water, it's automatically served in the large, in the ocean. And similarly, one who realizes the absolute truth, he automatically understands the Vedas, included.
Yes, yes, thank you for reminding me. Yeah, another put down or marginalization of the Vedas. All right, who's next to read?
Every living entity, beginning from Brahma, the firstborn living being within the material world, down to the insignificant ant, desires to relish some sort of taste derived from sense perception. These sensual pleasures are technically called rasas. Such rasas are of different varieties.
Okay, get ready to have your mind blown here.
In the revealed scriptures, the following 12 varieties of rasas are enumerated. 1. Raudra, anger. 2. Adbhuta, wonder. 3. Shingara, conjugal love. 4. Hasya, comedy. 5. Vira, chivalry. 6. Daya, mercy. 7. Dasya, servitorship. 8. Sakya, fraternity. 9. Bhayanka, horror. 10. Vivatsa, shock. 11. Santa, neutrality. 12. Vatsalya, parenthood.
Okay. So these are divided into 5 primary and 7 secondary, as we'll read here. Who's next? Carla?
The sum total of all these rasas is called affection or love. Primarily, such signs of love are manifested in adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. And when these 5 are absent, love is present indirectly in anger, wonder, comedy, chivalry, fear, shock, and so on. For example, when a man is in love with a woman, the rasa is called conjugal love. But when such love affairs are disturbed, there may be wonder, anger, shock, or even horror. Sometimes love affairs between 2 persons culminate in ghastly murder scenes. Such rasas are displayed between man and between animal and animal. There is no possibility of an exchange or rasas between a man and an animal, or between a man and any other species of living being within the material world. The rasas are exchanged between members of the same species, but as far as the spirit souls are concerned, they are one qualitatively with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the rasas were originally exchanged between the spiritual living being and the spiritual whole, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual exchange or rasa is fully exhibited in spiritual existence between living beings and the Supreme Lord.
Okay, a lot to unpack here. Let's back up a little bit, okay? So first of all, these 5 primary rasas. So they are adoration, service, friendship, parental affection, and conjugal love. These are important to understand because our relationship with Krishna manifests in one or in all of these, and they're progressive, okay? So the first relationship between an individual and God is called Shanta Rasa, or neutrality. At Christmas time, we used to go out and distribute books dressed up as Santa Claus, and that was our Shanta Rasa. So the neutrality is the idea that God is great and I'm small. So all religions share this. God is great, I'm small. And so therefore I have respect for God. I'm a God-fearing person. I have some sense of God's superiority and my inferior position. So then what is the result of that relationship? Tendency is then, well, God's great, I'm small. Therefore, let me ask of God what I need, because he's the big dude, right? So give us this day our daily bread, forgive our trespasses, lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. It's kind of like a spiritual shopping list. And this is the introductory level of God consciousness. It's a worthy position, and at the same time, it's just the beginning. So taking one step beyond reverence is what? Servitorship. Let me do something for you. I used to be part of the there's a campus ministry cooperative here at the University of Florida. I know, it's kind of fizzled now, huh? So colleges were all started around churches. And then when they became secularized, all the religious groups were pushed off campus. So they were secularized because it was just one religion, and there were people of many faiths, so that didn't seem right. So the state said, okay, off campus for religion. The university auditorium over here was, of course, a church initially, but now it's used for other purposes. So anyway, all the churches are off campus like us, and the leaders used to get together, and it was very interesting to see all these very reverential people towards God. And then once a year, they'd get real fired up and do a service. Okay, this is going to be our service. What's our service this year? And many times generally it was to make food for the homeless. So they had a program called PB&J, Peanut Butter and Jesus. So make lots of sandwiches and pass them out. And this was like a really big thing, like service. We're going to do service for God, And Manaseva, Madhava Seva. In India, there's a saying, yes, that to serve man is to serve God. So this is servitude, and it's manifest in this way in a very generic sense. But what are some more intimate kinds of service that one can render? Very simple things in bhakti, that we do. Instead of giving food to the poor, we give food to Krishna. Yeah, a simple thing. Patram pushpam balam toyam. Just off. Anyone can do that, such a simple thing. Who said grace in their family growing up? So this is like, thank you, God, for the food, right? Again, on reverence. But in Krishna consciousness, we say, oh, we're going to offer this back to you. Why? Because it came from you. The food has come from Krishna. We can't manufacture a grain of rice, a drop of milk. It comes from Krishna, everything. So we give it back. Like power comes from the powerhouse, comes into the light bulb, but then there has to be a return wire to complete the circuit. Otherwise, the bulb doesn't go on. So in the same way, we take energy from God, we give it back to him, then the circuit is complete. This is servitorship. Much more, as Prabhupada writes later in this volume, servitorship is the most congenial form of intimacy because the relationship between the servant and the served is so loving. Like the servant wants to serve the master, please, and then the master is pleased and wants to serve the servant. Oh, you take this. Oh, master, you're so kind, let me do this for you. This exchange of love based on service goes on and on. And so even though God is greater than us, we can connect with him in service. This is bhakti. All right, so then after servitorship comes what? If you serve someone for a long time, what might happen? You might become friends. So look, a friend can have respect for a friend. A friend can render service to a friend, but then the friend also feels sometimes what? What? Affection, but they feel like what? Equal, like this is my peer. See? So this is an even more intimate kind of relationship where one could actually feel like Krishna is my friend. Krishna is my buddy. Krishna knows me, cares about me. In its highest manifestation, the cowherd boys in Vrindavan are just thinking, yeah, Krishna's a really cool dude. He's fast and he's funny, and I'm going to play tricks on him, and he's going to play tricks on me. We're going to wrestle. They love Krishna as a friend, not as God. They're not, even all the reverential stuff is out the window. They're just thinking, oh, here's my friend, Krishna. So then friends, after friendship is what? Vatsalya rasa, which is parental affection. So the parents will certainly respect the child, will certainly serve the child big time, will befriend the child, but sometimes the parent does what? Corrects the child, tells the child what to do. So even more intimate relationship. Mother Yashoda is telling Krishna, come for dinner now, bring your father's shoes. And Krishna is very obediently coming. The neighbors are complaining to Mother Yashoda, do you know what your son is doing? Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj are very concerned about the character of their son. Although he's only a few years old, he's already been convicted of theft and committed murder. So, what kind of kid are we raising? Yes, should be reported to child services. Yes, get some therapy. So the relationship of parent and child is even more intimate, that God is allowing these great servants to be his parents and tell him what to do, and he does it. So this is even beyond the pure thinking that Krishna is my friend. Krishna is my child. He needs correction. He needs care. Krishna must be starving. Sometimes I'm amazed that Gaura have not lost weight with our irregular offerings here at Krishna House. But they're very merciful. They seem to be happy to have the devotee. And thank goodness we have Alachua nearby where the puja is so regular and wonderful. But the Pujari may feel like that. Oh, Krishna is hungry. Oh, it's late. I need to get Krishna's lunch. What does Krishna want for lunch today? What did I give him yesterday? What could I make today? In this way, the parental rasa can be manifest. And finally, the conjugal rasa. This is madhurya rasa. Madhurya means sweet. The sweetest of all relationships is love between the lover and the beloved. So this is so different than its perverted reflection in the material world, that love is based on sense gratification. You scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. We love each other, right? Which leads, as Prabhupada said, to so much disappointment because it doesn't really fill the need of the soul. But in its pure sense, the spiritual sense, this conjugal rasa, like between Radha and Krishna, has nothing to do with mundane attraction. It is the highest expression of service, of friendship, of adoration, of bossiness, and of union, where the soul is so in love with Krishna that there is this complete union of purpose. And the love that is experienced on each side is greater than the other person can experience. That selfless love is limitless. It's so limitless. Radha's love for Krishna is so limitless that Krishna becomes a little curious. What is that like? I wonder what it's like for someone to love me as much as Radharani does. And so therefore Krishna does what? He comes as Lord Chaitanya to experience what it's like to be a devotee in love with Krishna. So the conjugal relationship contains all of the others, but it is a unique property of union. So these are the 5 primary rasas. Now, Prabhupada writes that when these 5 are absent, love is present indirectly. What does that mean? Love is present indirectly in these 7 secondary rasas: anger, wonder, chivalry, fear, shock, humor, and so forth. You can explain, what does that mean? These 5 are not present. Can anyone think of an example of somebody who had a relationship with Krishna in anger without any awe, reverence, friendship? Kamsa, yes. He was thinking of Krishna all the time, more in fear probably. here. Yeah. Who was angry? Kalyavana, yeah. Jarasandha. Yes. Shishupal. Shishupal is the Acharya. Shishupal was born with 3 eyes, and his mother took him to a sage. The sage said, when you find the person who will kill your son, that person will, when you put your son in his lap, his 3rd eye will fall out. So she was putting her son on everybody's lap. Finally, she put her son on Krishna's lap. Oh, the 3rd eye goes. And so she begged him, please, don't kill my son. Don't kill my son. And Krishna said, don't worry, Mataji, don't worry. I will tolerate 100 insults from your son. And so she was pacified. So the Shishupal, who was he was supposed to marry Rukmini, right? Yeah. And Krishna came and kidnapped Rukmini, who wanted to marry Krishna, and not the Shishupal. So, can we turn the AC down a little bit? I'm getting pneumonia. Is everyone all right? Okay, thank you. So, Shishupal was very angry with Krishna. He did not like Krishna at all. And so, later, during a Rajasuya sacrifice, a big ceremony, everyone was discussing, who should we worship first? And so one devotee, it was Sahadev, stood up and said, we should obviously worship Krishna first. And so Shishupal then stood up and began saying all the reasons why we should not worship Krishna first. So he says this, you don't know what caste he's come from. He's done this, he's done that. He went on and on and on. Krishna's like got a counter. 81, 89, 94. Finally, 100. Then Sudarshan Chakra decapitated Shishupal. So he's a great example of a relationship with Krishna in anger. None of the other primary rasas are there, but this one is. The other rasas can be present, but not prominent for these others to manifest, like comedy, for example. Who's an example of someone who has a relationship with Krishna in humor? Madhu Mangala, yeah. Madhu Mangala was, see, all the boys in Vrindavan were sons of Vaishyas, so they're all cowherd boys, but Madhu Mangala was the son of a Brahmin. So he's kind of the priest. And he was so fat because he would get all the offerings. He was so fat that one time all the cowherd boys were trying to steal some butter or something, and then someone was coming, so they all jumped out the window, but Madhu Mangal was too fat to fit through. It stuck in there. He used to slap his armpit like that and make farting noises. Always some joke going on with Krishna. So he loved Krishna. He was a friend of Krishna, but he also had this relationship of making Krishna laugh, vice versa. Yeah. Sometimes Krishna would also engage in this humorous rasa with devotees. Once, Radharani was married, but not to Krishna. Did you know that? She had a husband named Abhimanyu, because her mother, Jatila, did not want her to marry this Krishna, who was always sneaking around. So Krishna dressed up as Abhimanyu so accurately that he just walked right in the house. Jatila didn't notice. And then when the real Abhimanyu was coming, Krishna goes to Jatila and says, Krishna is dressed up as me. Here he comes. So she goes out and beats him with a stick. So all of these supplementary rasas are there in Krishna's pastimes. The Sanskrit word for rasa, or rasa actually means in English like taste and, or a flavor. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is being glorified here because it is the reservoir of all of these rasas that we don't find in the Vedas. See? We just find them when we actually understand the beautiful story of the personality of God. So it's very delicate. Anyone ever have a persimmon? Familiar with persimmons? So we're very fortunate. We have a nice persimmon tree in our yard, and they just come into ripeness right now in September. There's a couple of hundred of persimmons. They're all green. One by one, they're ripe. You have to check every day because as soon as they get ripe, the birds, the squirrels, everyone comes to get them. So you have to pick them just when they're ripe. So there's the first ripe one the other day. We went out to get it with my grandson. I have a fruit picker. Carefully put it up there. It's way up. I pulled it and it broke. And it just, all the beautiful, delicious juice just kind of fell on the ground. So it's very delicate to pass down a tender, ripe fruit like this. So this is why the Bhagavatam comes into cyclic succession. Vyasadeva initially wrote it under the direction of Narada. And then from Vyas, excuse me, he came to the ideal teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, who is, Shukadev. Shukadev's, okay, let's stick with the verse. Okay, Shukadev spoke it. He heard it from his father, and then he spoke it. And the word shuka means parrot. So in tropical climates, it's known that if a parrot breaks the skin of a fruit, it will increase the sugar content of that fruit. It will start to ripen more rapidly. And so Shukadev is breaking the skin of Srimad Bhagavatam to make it even more relishable by this presentation. He was a parrot in his last life, by the way. Shukadeva Goswami was listening to Radha. He was hanging out on the tree listening to Radha and Krishna's exchanges. And so he took birth as Shukadeva so he could repeat everything he heard in the Bhagavatam. This is why, by the way, Radharani is not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Did you know that? She's never mentioned in the whole Bhagavatam. One of the reasons is because Shukadeva would have become so ecstatic that he wouldn't have been able to continue speaking. So he only speaks about her indirectly. Like when Radharani is talking to the bumblebee, on the exchanges, so she's not mentioned. A certain gopi, it says, a certain gopi. Anyway, so Shukadeva presented it, and it's then come from teacher to teacher all the way down to the ideal teacher of Bhagavatam, who is, as we read in the, yes, the Bhagavatam begins with a short life sketch of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he's the ideal teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam. So then after Lord Chaitanya, his disciples, the Goswamis, continued. They present their disciple, Srinivas Narottama. They presented Krishnadas Kaviraj, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita, presented the same thing. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who wrote the Guru Vastakam that we sing in the morning, and many beautiful commentaries, continued the line down to Jagannath Das Babaji, who was the spiritual master, teacher of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. He's next. Yeah. After Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Kishore Das Babaji is considered the Acharya who initiated Bhakti Siddhanta, who initiated Srila Prabhupada. And this way, the tender fruit of Srimad Bhagavatam is passed down by Acharyas who are exemplifying the teaching. This is why Rasika is mentioned in this verse. Rasika, those who can actually relish these mellows, these tastes. So, anyway, we're about out of time. Can we go a little further? Finish the purport? Okay. All right, who'd like to read next? Who's not? Is it me? Okay. It's got a little bit more.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is therefore described in the Shruti mantras, Vedic hymns, as the fountainhead of all rasas. When one associates with the Supreme Lord and exchanges one's constitutional rasa with the Lord, then the living being is actually.
This is why Krishna consciousness is so important, because even if people believe in God, they think he's just in a very simplistic way, this old man, who's universal judge, and he's an orphan, no parents, he's a loner, no friends, right? He's busy fulfilling everyone's desires. Everyone sees Bruce Almighty getting so many prayer requests that he's so busy filling them he can't keep up. and then he's got no lover. He's on Tinder, trying to get a date. I mean, this is like, the concept of God is so limited, right? So this is why Bhagavatam is so important. All the rasas are there. Okay. Reading next. Please.
These Shruti mantras indicate that every living being has its constitutional position, which is endowed with a particular type of rasa to be exchanged with the personality of Godhead. In the liberated condition only, this primary rasa is experienced in full. In the material existence, the rasa is experienced in the perverted form, which is temporary, and thus the rasas of the material world are exhibited in the material form of raudra, anger, and so on.
Right, we all experience these relationships, but only in a perverted way. Okay?
Therefore, one who attains full knowledge of these different rasas, which are the basic principles of activities, can understand the false representation of the original rasas, which are reflected in the material world. The learned scholar seeks to relish the real rasa in the spiritual form. In the beginning, he desires to become one with the Supreme. Thus, less intelligent transcendentalists cannot go beyond this conception of becoming one with the spirit whole, without knowing of the different rasas.
Without knowing of the different rasas. So yes, you remember in the earlier paragraph you read, Prabhupada was saying that these rasas exist only between human and human, or animal and animal. Did anyone have like a red flag go up there? What about my dog? I love my dog and my dog loves me. So how do you explain that? What rasa is that? Let's go for it.
Yeah, the problem is, in English, the word love, we just have one word: love of God, love of dog. I love my wife. I love chocolate. You can have affection with your pets. Your pets can have affection for you. There's more different. Prema is the love for God in the Sanskrit or whatever. And there's different. They have more names for love. Our name for love is, our word love is very general.
A little precise, yes.
The other thing is that these rasas are experienced on a spiritual platform, whereas you can have rasa with an animal, but it's not rasa. It's something material.
Right. Yes, if the master were not to feed the dog, eventually the dog will go away. Right? Or in any case, it's a material relationship. Like, oh, you give me companionship, I give you Alpo dog food, and we have this rasa. Right? But it's ultimately a self-serving. So this is why dogs are domesticated, because they learn that by hanging around humans, they can be more protected. And so you take that away, and then there's no relationship. However, the relationship between the soul and the Supreme is not dependent upon any sort of material arrangements, and therefore it's on a higher platform, it's a different platform. Okay, all right. So without understanding the concept of relationship, people will want to become one with God, and therefore there's no relationship. As soon as you become one, then the relationship is gone. And people tend toward that because relationships have been such a pain in the neck. Parents, if you ever become parents, let me just tell you what happens. When your kids are little, you're the bestest mommy and daddy in the whole world. And then about 10 years later, I say, could you move to another city? So you go through these disappointments, all kinds of relationships, friendships, lovers. We get disappointed or they're broken one way or the other. So who wants a relationship? Spiritual life must be above all of these relationships. So this is why people want to become one with God, which is so preposterous. What can we do? So anyway, okay, let's finish up there. I'm sorry.
In this shloka, it is definitely stated that spiritual rasa, which is relished even in the liberated state, can be experienced in the literature of Srimad Bhagavatam due to its being the ripened fruit of all Vedic knowledge. By submissively hearing this transcendental literature, one can attain the full pleasure of his heart's desire. But one must be very careful.
To hear it from the right source, Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source.
Srimad Bhagavatam is exactly received from the right source. It was brought by Narada Muni from the spiritual world and is given to his disciple Sri Vyasadeva. The latter, in turn, delivered the message to his son Srila Shukadeva Goswami, and Srila Shukadeva Goswami delivered the message to Maharaj Parikshit just 7 days before the king's death. Srila Shukadeva Goswami was a liberated soul from his very birth. He was liberated even in the womb of his mother, and he did not undergo any sort of spiritual training after his birth. At birth, no one is qualified, neither in the mundane nor the spiritual sense. But Sri Shukadeva Goswami, due to his being a perfectly liberated soul, did not have to undergo an evolutionary process for spiritual realization. Yet, despite his being a completely liberated person situated in the transcendental position above the three modes, material modes, he was attracted to this transcendental rasa of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is adored by liberated souls who sing Vedic hymns. The Supreme Lord's pastimes are more attractive to liberated souls than to mundane people. He is of necessity not impersonal because it is only possible to carry on transcendental rasa with a person.
The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are narrated, and the narration is systematically depicted by Srila Shukadeva Goswami. Thus, the subject matter is appealing to all classes of persons, including those who seek liberation and those who seek to become one with the Supreme Whole.
Sometimes people think that you can become so devoted to God that you become God. This is how they misunderstand bhakti. Pardon?
In Sanskrit, the parrot is also known as shuka. When a ripened fruit is cut by the red beaks of such birds, its sweet flavor is enhanced. The Vedic fruit, which is mature and ripe in knowledge, is spoken through the lips of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, who is compared to the parrot, not for his ability to recite the Bhagavatam, exactly as he heard it from his learned father, but for his ability to present the work in a manner that would appeal to all classes of men.
The subject matter is so presented through the lips of Srila Shukadeva Goswami that any sincere listener that hears submissively can at once relish transcendental tastes, which are distinct from the perverted tastes of the material world. The ripened fruit is not dropped all of a sudden from the highest planet of Krishna Loka. Rather, it has come down carefully through the chain of disciplic succession without change or disturbance. Foolish people who are not in the transcendental disciplic succession commit great blunders by trying to understand the highest transcendental rasa, known as the rasa dance, without following in the footsteps of Shukadeva Goswami, who presents this fruit very carefully by stages of transcendental realization. One should be intelligent enough to know the position of Srimad Bhagavatam by considering personalities like Shukadev Goswami, who deals with the subject so carefully. This process of disciplic succession of the Bhagavat school suggests that in the future also Srimad Bhagavatam has to be understood from a person who is factually a representative of Srila Shukadev Goswami, a professional man who makes a business out of Bhagavatam. Professional man who makes a business out of reciting the Bhagavatam illegally is certainly not a representative of Shukadev Goswami. Such a man's business is only to earn his livelihood. Therefore, one should refrain from hearing the lectures of such professional men. Such men usually go to the most confidential part of the literature without undergoing the gradual process of understanding this grave subject. They usually plunge into the subject matter of the rasa dance, which is misunderstood by the foolish class of men. Some of them take this to be immoral, while others try to cover it up by their own stupid interpretations. They have no desire to follow in the footsteps of Srila Shukadev Goswami.
It said that one who works for God to earn money will eventually switch to the devil because the wages are better. Okay, last paragraph.
One should conclude, therefore, that the serious student of the rasa should receive the message of Bhagavatam in the chain of disciplic succession from Srila Shukadev Goswami, who describes the Bhagavatam from its very beginning, and not whimsically to satisfy the mundaner who has very little knowledge in transcendental science. Srimad Bhagavatam is so carefully presented that a sincere and serious person can at once enjoy the ripened fruit of Vedic knowledge simply by drinking the nectarian juice through the mouth of Shukadev Goswami or his bona fide representative.
All right, how are we doing with breakfast? Is it ready?